What is going on, and welcome back to another video on Conqueror's Blade. So today we're going to be going sort of backwards in time and revisiting a Season 5 unit, and that is of course the Sarmatian Paladins. So obviously I did a video on these guys at the time, back in Season 5, and I said quite a good unit, quite enjoy them, but didn't think they were the greatest unit in the game. And kind of like every time I say that, sort of see some of my earlier Sereg videos, I tend to kind of end up regretting it and end up loving the unit more and more afterwards. And this is kind of proving to be the case with the Paladins. The more I play them, the more I seem to enjoy them, because they're just such a well-rounded unit, and they just seem to fulfill so many niches so well. So what is it about them that I enjoy so much? I think it's the fact that they can achieve a bit of everything. They have a really nice charge. Their shield rush is really effective. It pushes through a unit of stalwarts, which is really nice for the start. Pushes through pretty much any shield unit, anything that attempts to block it. It kills heroes fairly effectively if they stand in the path. And it means it does a lot of damage. So that initial hit, that initial charge, sort of seriously weakens the enemy unit. And because it seems to hit through a lot of stuff, it's nice, particularly against stalwarts. You know, games now are just so full of stalwarts, and it's not like I don't enjoy playing the stalwarts like I enjoy playing the Paladins. And that's not to say that the stalwarts are bad or worse than the Paladins, because they're probably not. They're probably in reality a more flexible unit and probably better. But for me, the Paladins are much more fun to play. So the fact that they effectively counter stalwarts, or at least give them a fighting chance to counter stalwarts, makes them for me a really interesting unit. On top of that, they're just a really tanky unit. We're coming in at about 10,000 hit points, and I'm currently at 962 on their piercing defense. You know, and they've got a shield, makes them very good at resisting enemy range fire. That's really nice. Their slashing 784 is really good, and I've still got a node to go on the unit tree. Because if you weren't aware, then the upgrades, because this is a promoted unit of men-at-arms, and the upgrades on the men-at-arms tree do affect the Paladins as well. These upgrades here, these extra defensive stats, are sort of reflected in the Paladins' piercing and slashing defense, which is really nice. So we've got another 2 of these to go. So probably won't quite take us to 1,000 on piercing, but we're going to be pretty damn close. And I think we will get over 800 on the slashing defense, which is going to be nice. So it makes them a really tanky unit. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. In combination with the shield and the fact they have an active block. So when they are attacking an enemy unit, when they're attacking, you know, whether it would be an enemy unit of serfs or another enemy unit of paladins, they are actively blocking whilst they are attacking. So that means that when enemy heroes swing at them or enemy units swing at them, they have to get past the block first before they can do damage. So it just all in all, it goes together to make this unit that is very tanky and very, very hard to kill. On top of that, they obviously get a self-heal, the battle prayer, and it restores other units, so it can kind of be fairly useful. But for me, I probably predominantly use it as the self-heal, because it just tops their hit points up. It means you don't have to go back to the supply point quite so much. And actually, it provides a fair chunk of healing. It actually makes them quite nice and quite sort of usable in that sort of situation. Veterancy-wise, I've gone down the bottom line. There's kind of a little bit of an umming and ahhing over what's better for, depending on kind of what you want to achieve. I do run in groups a lot, but then I also tend to do quite a lot of solo, particularly when I'm recording and stuff. So for me, a lot of the stuff like the battle prayer cooldown, you know, it's nice. You know, reduces recovery cooldown by 6 seconds. It's nice, but because I'm not really making all that much use, or not making full use of the sort of allied heal, then I think personally I'm better off with the bottom line. It makes them a more tanky unit, getting the piercing damage, piercing defense, range damage reduction, things like this, which for me, as a predominantly solo player, I think this is kind of more worth it, and it makes them a really hard unit to kill. But I think both lines work, because you are getting the flexibility of the AoE heal along the top line. So yeah, kind of depends a little bit down to personal preference, I think, that one. Personally, I think both are very, very viable lines. Doctrine-wise, got a few interesting bits of stuff on here. Obviously, the increased block, you know, it's kind of a real must-have. Really no reason to not have that one on. Put on the piercing damage, the Paladin Sword Doctrine, which comes from the unit challenges. So you're going to be able to get that one if you unlock the unit, so it's well worth sticking that one on. It does work in combination with a standard piercing damage Doctrine as well. So effectively I'm getting plus 150 on the piercing damage. And I think by the time you get to that point, it becomes worthwhile sticking that sort of stuff on. I didn't put on the cooldown. For me, 2 seconds, it didn't seem to be worth it. You know, if it's a choice between the 2-second cooldown on the self-heal and the AoE heal over an extra 60 piercing damage, for me, I'd rather have the extra 60 piercing damage. Again, obviously going for the armor penetration, and I've stuck on a sort of a half-decent piercing defense. To be honest, if I keep using this unit more, I think there's a pretty decent chance I might whip this one off and put on a blue piercing defense doctrine, because then we'll see sort of what that takes it up to. We might just, in combination with the other node, we might just be able to peak them up to 1,000 on the piercing defense. Not that that's really worthwhile doing, but I don't know. There's just something psychological in me that that wants to get them to 1,000 piercing defense just because. So yeah, let's hop into some clips with them, see how we've been getting on, and kind of see who we can take down in some battles with these guys. So we start off into Conqueror Castle. A few minutes have already passed because, well, I forgot to turn the recording on. But you know, give me a break, it is me. And we managed to start ourselves off with a nice little hero kill from the start. And then we see we've got the sort of enemy units up above on the wall. I kind of start to turn my attention to them and think about maybe charging into them. I should definitely, and what I didn't do is I didn't have a look to my right to see if there's any trebs coming. Could easily have been a treb landing on this point, and I would have just walked straight into it. So not so much good in doing that, but I should have been checking a little bit more. But we get up, clear out the enemy archers easily. Obviously no trouble for a unit of paladins in that sort of situation. But as we come down, the enemy makes a push from the other side. I'm kind of trying to hang back because my charge is still on cooldown, and I'm a bit late here. You'll see I notice the Imperial Pikes coming down, and I start to try to move, but I'm too slow, and we get a bit pushed over by the Imperial Pike advance. But I put the self-heal on, and we're really able to get away with it with very minimal amount of damage. So we're very lucky in that sense, and then able to start to get the damage on and get my charge in. Now watch this enemy hero at the back, he is full health. And there we go, gets completely wiped by the unit charge. This unit, the charge on the Paladins is really strong. It might not be the strongest hero killing charge in the game, but if you hit an enemy hero full on with a unit charge, it pretty well will kill them in one. And if not, it will certainly put them very, very low. So it's really effective in that sort of capacity. So anyway, I've got myself healed back up, and I'm kind of thinking about where I want to go next. We didn't have all that much left on the point. I think a lot of people started to push along the wall or push back to supply point to heal. And with all this stuff here, I'm starting to think, oh Christ, a bit nervous now. But I have got my charge back off cooldown because it has quite a short cooldown. And as they clear the stairs, I decide to go for it. I put on my damage buff, get straight in, and you see the amount of kills we get. Extra hero kill, extra hero kill, extra hero kill. So we've got a 3-stack hero kill from that one charge. Plus we've got about 30 enemy units for no losses. And we're now cutting through what's left of that enemy shield wall and what are left of that unit of squires. I then wasn't prepared to chase down that musket, but you can see how this unit is just so dominating in this sort of environment, where it's lots of sort of small to medium scale pitched fights like that. I think the Paladins just absolutely dominate, and this is why I think they can be better than the Stalwarts in some situations, because they have this flexibility to sort of move around, to charge, to adjust to the situation quite easily, and in this sort of thing I just absolutely love them. And this combined of course with the self-heal every 60 seconds, oh, I think it's actually slightly less with a bit of the cooldown. Of course if you had the actual Doctrine plus the top veterancy line, maybe you'd be down to sort of 45. You know, it means I don't need to visit a supply point, and actually we've got to the point where none of the unit are in the red. At this point this guy just got too close with his archers. I was able to get in, he tries to move them. I pushed the unit as close as I could, and as soon as he started to move those archers, I pressed V and put the unit onto attack. And of course they just stabbed at everything in range, which meant, you know, we killed about 10 of his fire archers. I could have chased them down the siege tower. I didn't know what else was on the ladder. Didn't really want to be doing that. But the unit, now we've taken no losses and we're pretty much back to full health. And we actually haven't visited a supply point at all at this point. So as we come here, I think, oh, I'm not so sure about this now. You know, there's an Imperial Pike advance currently active, and there's a lot of range and a lot of other stuff coming around the corner. So I'm kind of thinking, I don't really know if I want to be getting into this. I noticed someone else pushes up with some Paladins. I don't know quite why he pushed in there on his own. Really not a great place to be going when you're so outnumbered like that. There comes a point then it's not always worth defending a position or attacking a point. But then, as we get a bit more stuff, the stalwarts turn up. I kind of felt obliged to go in, slightly against my better judgment, and we do end up kind of going in the end. As the stalwarts push up, the paladins charge in with the fortebraccios coming up behind. I decided to go for a charge. There's just too many enemy heroes here. You see, we get sort of 20 odd unit kills on the hit, and the unit starts to go about, but there's just too many enemy heroes putting in CC. We then get hit by the Imperial Pike advance, and that really is what about finishes off. I mean, I'm completely stuck in a CC chain now and get myself killed. The unit does fight on pretty well, and we did actually kill quite a lot and do quite a lot of damage, and we pretty well blunted the enemy advance. But unfortunately, we did lose the unit, and we couldn't really get enough momentum going to push out of the point any further. But we were still pretty easily able to get sort of 130 unit kills, and I think in the end we ended up with about 8 hero kills or something between myself and the unit. And that kind of shows, in my opinion, why they're such a nice unit. And they're a consistent unit. I think sometimes units that I show on this video, is 5 bad games and then I get a nice game which I can show. But this unit sort of consistently gets decent games because they always put out good damage, they're always very tanky, always have a nice charge, and all these attributes kind of come together to make them quite an easy unit to use well. You don't have to be a great player to use them quite nicely because they're tanky and because they have a high damage output. So for me, I think Paladins are fast becoming one of my staple units that I always end up sticking in my warband build because they're pretty well great in every situation. But anyway, that's all I've got time for today. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, let me know what you think about the Paladins in the comments down below. Of course, subscribe to the channel for lots more Conqueror's Blade content, and I shall see you guys all on the next video.